I love Z. I'm the founder of Embody More Love, and I'm excited to talk to you all today about 4 ways that we can create personal and collective healing through our relationships, through the way that we are in relationships. So, I want you to imagine that the way we relate to each other, how we design our relationships, how we tend to them, how we think about them, how we cherish them, all of that impacts the quality of our lives, but it also leaves a relational legacy for our children and for future generations to be able to inherit more solidarity, more relational peace and stability, more compassion, more generosity, more joy. And that really excites me. So I wanted to break down these 4 ways that we can create personal and collective healing through our relationships. And part of this is looking at decolonizing our relationships. Like sometimes when we're swimming around in the water, we can't tell we're in the water, right? So, how do we get some perspective on the ways that we might be showing up in our relationships and opportunities to do that differently that can create more personal and collective healing? So there's 4 things. I'll name them now, and then I'm going to go through and break them down. 1, to redefine what community is. 2, conscious relationship design to redistribute love. 3, experiencing the gift of committing. And 4, making the space to tend to the garden of your relationships. Okay, so let's start at the top. 1, redefine what community is. Take a moment to think about what is community to you. And I want to share some words from Sobonfu Somé, who's one of my very dear mentors in my life. She is from the Dagra people of Burkina Faso, and I learned grief ritual with her. And the way that the Dagra understand community and village totally changed my life. It was like, oh my God, basically you are living the way that my heart knows how to live, but I get to see it and hear it through these people. And it completely changed my life. So here's a quote from Sobonfu. It is as difficult for Indigenous people to conceive of life without a community as it is for most Westerners to imagine life in a community. The goal of community is to make sure that each member of the community is heard and is properly giving the gifts that they have brought to this world. That is how the Dagra people relate to community. And it is so different from a lot of Westerners' sense of what community is. I remember years ago when I was apprenticing with the Liz Lerman Dance Exchange, that Liz wrote this distinction about connection versus community, and how in the West, a lot of people were just mixing them up, using them interchangeably as if they were the same thing. And there'd be these low commitment, impromptu or infrequent connections. And we'd think, yeah, I'm in community, which is so in contrast to Sobonfu's wisdom and her words, right? And that deeper tracking of, are we supporting each other? Are we seeing each other at the soul level of like the gifts that you have of who you are, and being the community that they need around them to thrive through sharing their soul gifts, through their soul gifts being valued and well received? And that is so at the heart of our sense of our attachment systems, our sense of being securely bonded at the community level, at the village level, knowing that we are wanted here truly for who we are, right? Not just for our social rank or social approval, but we are wanted here for the essence of who we are and the gift that we have to offer. So that's the first one, right? Redefining what community is. The second one is conscious relationship design to redistribute love. So, designing relationships that actually focus on mutual love and care and that are going to leave a legacy for future generations to have more solidarity, generosity, compassion, like a sense that, yeah, I can rely on my people around me and they can rely on me. And we've got each other's back, right? To feel that in our bodies. So I want to read to you all two quotes from two people I absolutely adore, Adrienne Maree Brown and Autumn Brown. And they are sisters. They have this incredible podcast you should totally check out called How to Survive the End of the World. And I just love how they frame conscious relationship design, or at least that's the words I'm putting to it. But let me start off with this. This is from Autumn. The current constructs that we have around legal marriage, monogamy, as being fundamentally about property, being able to accrue and pass on wealth, the way that white supremacy, monogamy, heterosexism, capitalism are all the same system. It's important for us to not lose sight of this as it's falling apart. There's a reason why that system feels like it's dying. And it's not just because it's not cool. It's also because there's a whole bunch of things that it serves that we actually don't want to perpetuate. So when we think about relationship design by default, relationship design by social approval, the roots of where that came from, as Autumn is pointing to, came from a construct about accruing and passing on wealth within a very elite group of people, right? Which is so different than what if we designed our relationships to generate love and mutual support and to take care of life on this planet? Like such a different place to come from, right? So here's Adrienne's quote in that same podcast with Autumn. I think we're just at the beginning of understanding the kind of relationships that are going to take us through to the next era of humanity. So I think that this era has been defined by the monogamous relationship. And I think that there's a lot of experimentation happening to figure out in an unstable world with an unstable climate, with unstable economy. I think that the more relationships we can manage and hold well, that's how we actually end up in an era where humans, and particularly kids, are getting the amount of care that they need. People who have mental and physical disabilities are getting the love and care and support that they need. And there's something about redistributing how we think about love in relationship to community that is happening right now that I find very exciting and I want to participate in. That is Adrienne Maree Brown's words. And I love this reframing from a default of how we might think relationship is supposed to look. Most of us growing up probably saw a specific model of relationship without realizing the context that it was coming from, the historical and cultural context that these two sisters speak to so beautifully, and where we're headed. So the first one is redefining what community is. And the second one is conscious relationship design to redistribute love, right? And by the way, I do have classes and more content and I coach people around all this, but I just wanted to distill it down to like this bigger view and perspective on how we can create personal and collective healing through our relationships. So the third one is experiencing the gift of committing. I am in one of the most beautiful, healthy partnerships of my life right now. And I'm discovering that I have several friends who are having a similar experience, that over the last few years, we had a breakthrough in our sense of a secure bond with a partner. And I've been talking to us of like, hey, how did we get here? What happened along the way that allowed us to have this thing we've longed for most of our life, but has only really come to fruition as a felt experience in the last few years or year. And one of the things that I've heard people share with me in that conversation is recognizing this shift from I have to commit to I get to commit, like recognizing the gift of that. My dear friend Meg said that to me this morning. And I was just like, oh my God, I so feel that, right? This sense of like, I'm not perched at the door, ready to leave at any moment because I'm trying to evaluate if this relationship is good enough for me, and like staying in that kind of on the edge mindset, but more like, hey, I'm here. I'm here for all of it. And it feels like a gift and an honor to be able to commit to you. And one of the things that I've also been noticing from some of my friends as we talk about this is that ripples out. That when we shift from that kind of hesitancy to a steady, I'm here, that commitment ripples out to all of our other relations, to our relation to ourselves, to our relation to our soul work. There's a steadying of moving from an uncommitted life or a tentatively committed life to a committed life. And one of my dear friends said to me recently, as we were walking in the woods, when we commit to something consistently is when we get to see our patterns. And I would add, and our successes. And it can be very hard to notice our patterns or to experience success when our commitment has a lot of inconsistency in it. So the third one is experience the gift of committing. And I would also say that I think sometimes we have this myth that like we want to keep our possibilities open and wait for something better. And when we're in that space, it can be kind of tiring. And when I think about my life and those moments, I've been like, I am deeply committed to this and I'm going to be with it in this durational way. That's when it becomes more rewarding. When I look around me at the people who have the most energy and passion for life, they're very focused and committed on something. And I think we might think like, oh, that's more work, but actually it gives back to us when we're like, yeah, I know this is what I'm devoted to. Okay, so the fourth one is to make the space to tend to the garden of your relationships. What do I mean by that? Well, relationship tending takes time, takes focus, takes a curiosity of how you are impacting the people in your life that you love, right? How do we make the space in our life to give that time and focus and curiosity, right? Not just the idea. Like a lot of people like the idea of partnership or friendship or community, but maybe have not been making the space internally in their life to give it the time and focus that it needs. And often in cases, money and creativity and right, like true relationship does take orchestrating our resources of our time, our money, our creativity, a quality of giving and exchanging support. So how do we make the space to focus that energy on our relationships, right? To get curious with each other. Okay, what's been generative for us? What's been supportive for us? What could be even better? And to stay in the curiosity of that for each other. I have a lot of friends who teach repair workshops. And one of the key things that gets in the way of people having a successful repair is that they've lost the curiosity. They're like, I don't have the time and space and curiosity to orient to the other person's experience of me. So tending, making that space, right? Joanna Macy talks about how we are healing from 5 generations of individualism. It is so deep in our culture where we get so focused on our own personal experience and pursuits that we don't even track the impact we might be having on other people, right? The safety and well-being of other people, being a person in their life that they're grateful is in their life, right? I notice this as a relationship coach. Sometimes people are so focused on what do I want to get out of relationship that they don't make the space to notice, like, how can I make a difference in the people's lives that I love, that I date, that I'm connected to, and redistributing love and care, like Adrienne and Autumn were talking about. And to give this a little bit more context in terms of colonization and decolonization, if you look at systems of oppression like racism and ableism and sexism, right? What's the message at a relational level underneath that is that we're normalizing abandonment. We're saying, I'm willing to leave you behind, or I've been left behind. And there's kind of this resignation, like, and that's fine because the focus is on being an individual. And yet, like, how well can we actually be doing in these times? Because the collective is not doing well, right? So what does it look like to say, okay, I'm not willing to leave you behind. I'm here for repair, personal and collective repair. I'm here to learn how to love each other better, right? So that's the fourth one, to make the space in our lives to tend to the garden of our relationships. So to recap, 4 ways that we can create personal and collective healing through relationships: redefining what community is, conscious relationship design to redistribute love, experiencing the gift of committing, and making the space in our life to tend to the garden of your relationships. So if this intrigues you and you want to learn more, oh, wow, the sun is really there. Let's connect. I love sharing more about this through my books, through my workshops, through my coaching. And I love weaving in the wisdom of these other visionaries. And I hope that this has been helpful for you all.